All right, Jake Cortez here in Isla Morada, wrapping up an amazing event. We have
Tony Swantek.
Amazing. And I'm so excited to be putting this together because I've just recently become a part of this massive movement, and I really wanted to help open people's eyes around what this project is and how it's benefiting all of the people that are a part of it and all the people that would actually be consumers. So Tony, I just wanted to kind of like dive right in. Can we go back to the time where it just started as an idea and there was this problem that you've seen? Why does R-Link, why did you decide this solution needed to exist?
Well, I had used, video conferencing probably well before it was cool. Before COVID, we'd been using, I guess, WebEx was kind of where I started, Join.me, obviously Skype back in the day, and then Zoom kind of took over. And over the last several years, I've gotten involved in the blockchain space. And just watching how corporations have kind of handled our data over the last several years, it was kind of frustrating. I think if you ask society as a whole, I think we've conceded to the fact that somebody like Mark Zuckerberg is listening to us right now, and Google and ChatGPT and Bezos at Amazon, and that's just life. I think that's how it is. These corporations are going to continue to make trillions of dollars off of all of our data every single year. And so I watched Zoom. I remember it was March through August of 2023. Okay. They were sharing everyone's data with their AI. And people got upset about it, but I don't know what you do. You go to Google Meet, go to Microsoft Teams. Those guys are better at mining data than Zoom is. And so I felt like a blockchain solution in the video conferencing space where the users could own and control their data and eventually monetize their data. I felt like society would be excited about something like that, where finally this huge corporation wasn't, literally stealing their data from them, and they had that control.
Got it. Now, outside of privacy, what are the things that you enjoy the most about using R-Link as opposed to like a Zoom or a Google Meet?
Yeah, I felt like when we first looked at R-Link, there were three areas that we could attack Zoom from a business standpoint.
Right.
Number one, I felt like price point. Zoom, over the years, and I'd used them for a long time, they hadn't really improved their tech that much, but they had certainly increased their pricing, and it was noticeable. And so when we moved over to R-Link, our accounting firm on the sales side, it ended up cutting our costs by over $3,000 a year. And so from a price point, that was kind of a no-brainer for us. And then R-Link started offering white label, and it's in beta right now, but we were actually the first white label. So my accounting firm, Jaunes Associates, has its own white labeled video conferencing platform, its own brand. And as an entrepreneur, if I can keep people inside my brand instead of sending them to Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or Zoom or even R-Link, I'm going to keep them inside my brand. And so I felt like price point was great, branding was great. Even with the white label, we save over $1,000 a year. So the savings is a no-brainer. Right. Secondly, I felt like the conversion side. Zoom is really a presentation platform, which same as Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. And I felt like there wasn't really a conversion platform. Like, what if I could pull up a call to action inside the meeting? Right. And, for Jaunes Associates, for our accounting firm, if they click it, it pulls up to enter their credit card information if they need to pay a deposit. Maybe I need them to sign a contract. It pulls the contract up. I can walk them through it, which is a lot better than me saying, hey, Jake, did you get the DocuSign? Check your email, look in your spam folder. At the end of the day, if I can walk you through a contract, have you sign it, have a full audit trail, I can sign the contract with a full e-signature audit trail. Now we've got a signed agreement while we're in the meeting. That's a lot better than me having to follow up day after day to see if you got an email with a DocuSign in it. So conversion was a no-brainer. And I think the third area, again, I mentioned earlier, was that blockchain ability to own your data, using blockchain, having a decentralized platform, but not just owning the data, being able to reward the user for using the platform and sharing it with others. And so there was some I think key points to utilizing blockchain tech that I felt like, certainly Zoom could lower their pricing. They could add more bells and whistles to convert. But one thing they were never going to do is give ownership of the platform up to the user base.
Yeah.
And that's what blockchain allowed for.
No way. Yeah. Zoom would never do that. Now, what is a rally reward?
So it's a digital reward that you can earn by using the platform. You're doing meetings on the platform. You're getting digital rewards. It's also something that you can earn if you share the platform with others. And so it's incentivization. Hey, tell your friends about this. Tell your company about this. Tell the CEO about this. If they start using it, you get more and more rewards that you can then use to pay for the platform. You can buy other products and services within our ecosystem, and there is a market for it. It is a cryptocurrency. You could turn those rewards into dollars, and if the market's big enough, you could potentially turn them into a lot of dollars.
Right. So you ultimately invested $53 million into this project. Like, what was like the motivating factor to do that?
Yeah, initially I think it was fear of loss.
Right.
It was kind of two phases. I had some friends that started a blockchain project back in like 2017, early 2018. Well, it was a gaming blockchain project they started then, but they'd been developing layer one blockchains starting around 2014.
Okay.
One of my buddies, he was one of the biggest Bitcoin miners in North America. Then he moved into building his own layer one chains. In early 2018, a friend of mine, said, hey, you need to buy nodes in this project called Gala Games. I won't get too in-depth into the story, but at the end of the day, I didn't get involved. I needed to call him back. It was a couple years later. I forgot to call him to kind of complete the transaction. And I watched this friend of mine make like $42 million on this gaming blockchain project. I didn't even know what a node was. He was like, what software? You put it on your computer, and this blockchain will pay you basically these magic tokens to use your computer power.
Right.
And I remember I said, well, how much do they pay you? And he said, well, they give you the Gala token. I said, well, how much is the Gala token worth? He said, well, right now, nothing. And I was like, that sounds, amazing. Like I was joking. I was like, you're going to borrow my computer and give me magic internet money that's not worth anything.
Right.
But then you fast forward, there were millions of people playing those games. He ended up making a lot of money. Another buddy of ours made over $4 billion on the project. And so I sat on the sidelines watching that. And then when they reconnected with me a few years later, probably a little over 2 years later, it was October of 23, they asked me to help them drive revenue through their blockchain projects. And, obviously knowing what I had gone through, missing out on a massive opportunity, I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw down. I put $3 million in, and that was it. I was just, going to basically invest in these nodes. There was the ability to depreciate. It's a software, so I could depreciate that software, like it's classified as off-the-shelf software. Okay. And then as I dug into blockchain and Web3, that's when I committed to do another $50 million. I did need the tax write-offs anyways. We were going to buy depreciating assets. So that is a big factor for me. I'm in Puerto Rico now. I live in Puerto Rico the last couple of years, so taxes are a little stronger there for business people. But back then I was still based in the U.S. most of the year. And so that was one factor. But the other factor was I just really did believe in what blockchain was going to do in traditional markets. I'd come across an article, this was from 2021, the World Economic Forum had estimated that blockchain technology would disrupt up to $867 trillion in traditional markets.
Wow.
And so that's not a once in a lifetime number.
Right.
That's a one-time number. My degree's in finance and economics, and so I'm pretty well aware of kind of trends and how they've shaped society over the years and shaped certainly the economy over the years. And this was the biggest shift probably in world history. The internet wasn't that big of a shift in wealth. And so as an entrepreneur, just a natural entrepreneur, I figured, how do we position ourselves to take advantage of that? And so, partnering up with this blockchain community that was proven that it already had a winner, I felt like I could help them grow. And so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to kind of come into that space. It was the first time I think as an investor or as an entrepreneur, I could move the needle in a blockchain or a crypto project. Like I can't tweet about Dogecoin and make it go up. I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not that important. But I knew I could add, 1 million users onto a platform, especially if it was as good or better than other products that were out there in the marketplace. And if 100% of that revenue was going in to buy a token, you could create objective value on the blockchain, which is something I was excited about.
Understood. Really cool. And what would you say are some of the biggest things and lessons, I should say, that we're taking from like Gala Games that we're doing better here?
Oh man, I think looking back, knowing what I know now, I look back and see so many mistakes that Gala made. I don't think they were decentralized far enough. Okay. They had one branch of governance, node ownership. So we've built out, the community voted on this, but we have 3 branches of governance. So node owners have a third of the voting rights. Hodlers, coin holders have a third of the voting rights.
Okay.
And then you've got the community builders, people that are bringing revenue to the project, have a third of the voting rights.
Right.
And so further decentralization can, I think, add more protection to a project. And then the other thing is revenue. They didn't have enough revenue that was coming in consistently to defend when the market turned on all coins, pretty
Right.
much. Bitcoin started crashing in 2021, they were the number 1 performing cryptocurrency in the world. Mm-hmm. And so in 2022, as the market turned, their coin turned with everyone else. Bitcoin went down, Ethereum followed, all the altcoins, they usually race past Bitcoin on the way to the bottom. And so they were no different. They didn't have enough revenue to insulate themselves from market conditions. And, I don't know what the market will do with our token, the Rally token. At the end of the day, the market is what it is. No one can control that.
Right.
But I know in the first week of this month in our beta, we did more revenue than Gala Games did their first 3 years combined.
Oh, wow.
So trajectory-wise, we're certainly on the right path, and there's still a ton of wood to chop, but we've got a lot of hatchets out there, and we're swinging.
Got it. So right now, when somebody signs up to our link, the Rally reward is purchased with their subscription money, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do 2 things I think better than really anyone in the blockchain space right now. Number 1, we make the blockchain invisible.
Okay.
So someone like my mom can sign up for our link or one of our other products or services, use her credit card,
Right.
and she's participating in blockchain technology, but has no idea she's participating in blockchain technology,
Right.
which is really how it needs to be. Like
Absolutely.
the internet grew because entrepreneurs made it easy to use.
Right.
Like the internet's around. I mean, in the 1970s, they were coding IP, TCP, like the internet protocol. I think 1983 is when it launched. Maybe the Navy was using email, I'm sure the armed forces, the governments, IBM, was using email, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. But people like us were not using email in the 80s. It was
Right.
Hotmail came out, and then we started using email. And we really didn't use the internet that much. And then all of a sudden you had Google, and you could find stuff. And then Amazon, you could buy stuff. PayPal, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, you could pay for stuff. And so entrepreneurs came in and made the internet easy. My mom doesn't know what HTML is or an SSL certificate.
Right.
But she can watch her shows on Netflix, pay her credit card bill, check her bank statements, send emails, hop on an R-Link meeting. She can use the internet to make her life more efficient, more entertaining. And that hadn't come into the blockchain space. These entrepreneurs made the internet usable. And blockchain, the entrepreneurs hadn't really made it simple. Grandma and grandpa are not going to download a MetaMask wallet and start bridging their tokens to an ERC20 chain. It's not going to happen. So we figured, how do we make it so, my mom, who's a great grandma, can use her credit card, put it in there, and now she's getting the advantages of blockchain tech, and it's invisible to her. She likes the fact that she gets rewards. It's like Amex points to her, airline miles,
Yeah.
and Zoom was never going to reward her. And so it was kind of an easy conversation to have. It was saving her money,
Yeah.
and she was getting rewards. So we made the blockchain visible. The second thing we did is we tie revenue onto the blockchain. So
Okay.
100% of our revenue goes in to buy our token out of the market. And it creates objective value. And I always tell people, I don't have a problem with subjective value. Right. Our company started buying Bitcoin back in 2013, and we've been buying it ever since. Like, I think Bitcoin should be at least $2 million a coin. But that's my opinion. I may be wrong. Michael Saylor says 21 million a coin. And Warren Buffett, who's a better investor than I'll ever be, says 0 a coin. He thinks it's worthless. And now even he has said blockchain technology is transformative. I think Warren Buffett understands the value of blockchain tech. I just think the speculative nature of cryptocurrency is something he doesn't like, speculative crypto, but he doesn't like speculative real estate investing either. He's a value investor. And so at the end of the day, though, he doesn't know.
Right.
I don't know. Michael Saylor doesn't know. It's just our opinion. The market will determine which one of us is more right and more wrong. I hope it's Michael Saylor, not Warren Buffett. But at the end of the day, it's completely subjective. Right. And if you look at a company like Apple, it's not my opinion that Apple is a valuable company.
Right.
Last year, their gross profit was just under $200 billion for the year. So, the world knows they're valuable. You do math. You go, okay, here's your revenue, here's your expenses. If your gross profit number for the year is hovering into the $200 billion mark, you're valuable. It's an objective fact.
Right.
And so what if we could bring that type of buy-side pressure behind a token? And the token's not valuable because I think it's valuable, but it's valuable because we have millions of clients paying $50 or $100 a month for a service, and 100% of that revenue is buying the token.
Wow.
Then you've got a valuable token because the market says so, not because it's my opinion.
Right. And then for like the lay person who's not in this space, like what is a node and what does it actually do?
So I look at a node, the idea of a node was explained to me a few different ways. A node on a network is anywhere where information can transfer from one area to another. So one of my friends said, if you think of a cell phone tower, like a farmer has land, and if Verizon or AT&T, or if you're in Europe, Vodafone, depending on where you're at in the world, if Verizon calls that farmer and says, hey, we want to put a tower up on your land, that would be a node on the Verizon network. It's helping Verizon move signal throughout the country. And they would tell that farmer, hey, we're going to lease that land. It's not like they go, we want to buy your farm. They go, hey, we'll lease a little piece of your land, and every month we'll pay you to borrow your land. Basically, hey, thanks for hosting the Verizon network on your farmland. And they get paid over and over, month after month. Blockchain is borrowing our computer power.
Okay.
And saying, if you're mining Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to reward you for helping to run the Bitcoin blockchain. Right. You plug it into the power, you mine, and you pay your power bill, and hopefully you earn more Bitcoin than it costs you to run that Bitcoin miner. Our node software is just that. It's software-based versus hardware-based, which is like a Bitcoin miner. So it's much cheaper to operate. You could run it on a Mac or Linux operating system if you want to, which is what I do. There's third-party companies that host node software. I mean, you could run it on, Google servers, Amazon web hosting, but companies like Vultr, Block Fabric. There's a new project called Codex that I may end up moving a lot of my hosting over to. I'll go wherever it's better priced, and so it can cost about what it costs to run a light bulb.
Got it.
To host a software-based node.
So like a guy like myself, I'm not super techie. I have nodes. I don't have to worry about hardware, not even really for me, the software. So how does it work where, let's say somebody doesn't want anything to do with that, but they want nodes? Like what's the process for them?
Yeah, I tell people, we can basically automate kind of the hosting for them through some of the different third-party partners where they buy the node and it's like a few clicks to set up, and then it's a third party that manages that software and says, hey, we'll run that software for you on our computers, and that way it's turned on and you're getting rewarded for using the software. I always tell people, if you look at a company like Uber, you basically, if you're driving for Uber, you're getting paid to let people borrow your car. If you're running an Airbnb, you're getting paid to let people stay at your house and borrow your house. If you're running a Rally blockchain node, you're getting rewards in Rally tokens for allowing the Rally blockchain to borrow your computer power, or whether you host it, in the cloud, like I do, they're going to pay you basically through your node as a reward for running the blockchain.
Understood. Really cool. And let's say someone's curious but cautious. The lowest we have is like a Droid. $250. Like what does that do for them? Like what could they expect if they kind of want to get their toe in the water, but they don't want to fully immerse themselves.
Sure. Listen, I always tell people, if you're cautious, just wait. Like there's no pressure to do anything on the blockchain. It's decentralized. I don't own the company. Like none of us do. It's a community owned. I own it through the community with everyone else. And so if someone says, hey, I'm interested, but still not sure, I'm like, hey, listen, the main thing you could do is use our products and services, whether it's our link or we have our newest product, Operaly, which is a kind of an aggregate of AI. And if they use the product or the service and they like it better than everything else in the market, then they have an option to actually own it.
Right.
They can own a piece of the technology through the blockchain as a community member. And so a $250 droid is kind of that entry level to ownership where you can get rewarded for sharing the platform with others. Because it's decentralized, there is no company to mail you a check and say, hey, Jake, thanks for bringing us that client. It pays you through a node. It's a smart contract. And so your node is getting a transaction reward, not that unlike a Bitcoin miner that gets a confirmation reward. You're getting rewarded through your node. And so it's a smart contract. That $250 node would basically allow the blockchain to reward you for bringing in users.
Got it. So you mentioned Operaly there. So that's another, let's say, real world asset on the Rally blockchain.
Yep.
Right. So let's kind of like dive a little into that briefly. So people are going to be paying $50 a month or $200 a month, depending upon their usage.
Sure.
Right. So what happens with that monthly subscription?
So again, same thing as kind of the R-Link. Is someone uses their credit card to pay $50 or they pay the $200.
Right.
As we come out of beta and launch, the community has voted to basically implement something called Smart Flow, which takes 100% of that revenue and it goes in to buy the Rally token out of the market. And so if someone's using, ChatGPT, paid version, they've got Canva, maybe they've got Claude, they maybe are paying for a lot of different AIs. I know I was. This is like an aggregator. Operaly is kind of a one-stop shop where you could stop paying, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars for all these different AI tools, and you can get them all in one place. And so I think the savings is great, but the usability is even better. Like the fact that I don't have to hop around from one app to the other. GPT's not the best at maybe, taking a PDF and converting it into an Excel sheet. I know it's not because it butchers it every time I ask it to. You need to go to Claude for that. But if I don't have the paid Claude version, maybe I can't get that done. So it's like having one-stop shop that can do it all at once, much easier, much better.
Got it. And then in terms of because you keep mentioning community, it sounds like the community owns the project.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, the miners actually control where the project is heading.
Okay.
If you look at Rally, it's a little more diverse. You've got the node owners, which would be like a miner similar, it's running the blockchain, confirming transactions. So the node owners have voting power. The hodlers, the people that are holding coins in their wallet, have voting power. And then the community builders, people that are bringing revenue and driving revenue and building community, bringing other people who drive revenue. There's a score that's based on the revenue you generate, the revenue the people you introduce to our community generate, and that score gives you voting rights. Mm-hmm. And so it truly is a community-owned project versus a corporate-owned project. And I think that's really what we're seeing in blockchain, in AI, is this battle that's forming between centralized control and decentralized control. Right. And I think at the end of the day, it's an easy decision for people to make. If you ask the 5.5 billion people that are online today, there's 8 billion people or 8.5 billion in the world, and the majority of them are actually online. And if we said you can continue the status quo, and Sam Altman and Bill Gates, at ChatGPT, Sergey and Larry Page at Google, and Bezos at Amazon, Zuckerberg at Facebook, they're all going to make trillions of dollars off of your data, which is centralized control, or you could move into a decentralized ecosystem where you control all of that.
Right.
100% of the people would choose to own and control their data. Maybe not Zuckerberg, but maybe or Bezos. Maybe the 5 or 6 people that have all of our data may not vote this way.
Right.
But the other 5.5 billion people would say, listen, let us own our data. Let us control our data. Let us monetize it if we choose to. The problem for them, Jake, they don't even know it's an option.
Right.
Like, how can you make a decision if you don't even know you have the choice to make? Now, the problem for them, and I think our goal as a community is to educate society, because the biggest problem is you have to make a choice one way or the other.
Right.
Like, if you choose the decentralized, I think that's the right choice. If you don't make a choice at all, Mark Zuckerberg's going to make the choice for you. You know, Bezos and Sam Altman, like GPT is going to make the choice for you and move you into the centralized control. So you're making a choice one way or the other, whether you know it or whether you don't. So our goal is at least to educate the consumer and say, listen, you have a choice here. And once we lay out the choice, I think 100% of people are going to move to that decentralized control.
Got it. Really cool. Last question here. So all of your other companies are set up in traditional corporate structures, you know, LLCs, S Corp, C Corps, whatever they are. Why did you decide on a decentralized autonomous organization on this one?
So for me, it solved, you know, it's funny. I had problems with certain philosophical business principles that the blockchain ended up solving for me. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if I was looking for a solution because I didn't know there was a solution.
Right.
I'll give you an example. In my accounting firm, the way we work is we have agencies that bring us clients. We've never advertised, never paid a penny for a social network post or a radio or TV spot. Our agencies brought us clients. And if you brought us a client for, let's say, the employee retention tax credit, which is a one-time tax credit, mm-hmm. you would get a commission for that.
Right.
But what if that client you introduced to us wanted to do research and development tax credits, which is an annual tax credit? It's been around since the 1981, I think R&D credits were formed, and then 2015 the PATH Act made them permanent. They're part of the law of the land now. Congress basically said, hey, there's always going to be an incentivization for companies to research, develop, innovate, which I think is a good idea to kind of foster innovation. So if your client says, hey, we want to do R&D credits through you, and they do it, we still pay you.
Right.
We give you a commission, even if you didn't know we offered R&D credits, because we look at it and say, hey, we wouldn't know this client if it weren't for Jake. So our philosophy is we pay Jake, and not just you, we pay your entity. If your kids, your grandkids, like if something happened to you, God says, hey, it's your time, your kids can start getting that pay. Like we have a trust with a young dad, unfortunately passed away, and now his daughter, who I think she's 11, he's got millions of dollars in commissions coming, and we helped fund and set up the trust with her mom and her grandma, so that now this little girl's trust is getting 100% of that commission. And so for me, that's the philosophy. The problem I saw, if God says it is my time, right, and maybe my jet doesn't make it to its destination on one of my flights, what if the people that take over my company don't share that philosophy? What if they say, why are we paying Jake's daughter, $10,000 a month off of this client? Cut that off, Or what if they exit and Ernst & Young buys or I guess they're called EY now. If EY, or Deloitte or whatever, a big firm buys us out and says, we don't pay commissions, cut it off, and makes you try and sue them. What if you don't have a lot of funding? Like, what if you're an 11-year-old girl? Like, you're probably not going to sue. So it's like, at the end of the day, I can't protect that.
Right.
The blockchain does.
Because it's built into the code.
It's built into the code. The community, now, could the community say, yeah, we want to cut off pay? Yeah, but they'd be cutting off their own pay. Very seldomly would you find someone that fires themselves and says, I don't want money anymore for the work that I've done, and I'm getting paid, and I don't have to do anything. It's residual. I brought that client once. They're using Operaly. They've continued to use Operaly. You should be getting rewarded for that indefinitely.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, the blockchain is solving that problem for me from a philosophical standpoint. And then I felt like that battle, once I knew the battle was happening, because I was like the rest of society. It's like, I was talking about, I was on a Virgin cruise. It was kind of a business networking cruise not long ago. And I'm not really a cruise guy. So I told my wife, I was like, if we do a cruise again, maybe like a 3-day on the Ritz-Carlton has a new cruise line, not over the last couple of years. I said, maybe we do one of the 3 days on the Ritz or something. I'll be danged if the next morning I don't go through my Facebook page and I see the Ritz-Carlton cruise, like advertisement popping up. And it's like, in my mind, it's back in the day, it's like, that's creepy, that's weird, but nothing changed. It's not like I was like, I'm never using my phone again.
Right.
It's like, that's just life. I was like the rest of society. So once I realized there is this battle getting ready to happen between the decentralized world and the centralized world, I needed to pick a side. And I thought it was a no-brainer to pick the decentralized side. And so I planted my flag. I'm all in. And for me, it really isn't, it doesn't have anything to do with the money. I think we have over 50 companies these days. A lot of them do really well. God has blessed us in more ways than I can even imagine. But I think I've been called to this battle and to educate society as much as I possibly can and bring in other educators to get out the word to the world that, hey, you have a choice. You have a choice and you can choose to have control.
Right.
And I think most people, if they're given that choice, they'll make that choice to control their data, to control their futures in essence.
Got it. Beautiful. Well, there you have it, folks. Jake Cortez and Tony Swantek. If you're looking to get rewarded to do something you're currently doing on a day-to-day basis, if you're anything like me, I was using Zoom 25 to 30 times a week, and now I'm going to be using R-Link, and I'm going to be rewarded for doing so. So if you're looking to be a part of this project, click the link below, and we'll see you on the other side.